Greetings everyone and welcome back. In this video, we will be taking a look at VanillaOS. I had not planned on making this video until much later. However, I was surprised to get several direct requests to do this video sooner than later. With my small number of followers for this channel, one request, while extraordinary, does happen. Even two requests is not out of the realm of possibility, but more than two requests, never. Though I have to say, a couple of these requests look more like challenges than actual requests. Nevertheless, with such a response, I have decided to push off the other videos I was working on and jump into VanillaOS with both feet, so to speak. As I said, I know I talked about doing Fedora Silverblue, but the requests were strictly for VanillaOS, and also I've been hearing that there's a Fedora version of Immutable OS running KDE. I need to look into that. If that's the case, I'll probably do that rather than Silverblue, not being a GNOME fan, which anybody who watches this channel should know. One of the things that make VanillaOS unique is the claim to be able to install packages from any repository, be it Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, even Arch, and others. This is a claim I'm looking forward to testing out. Since I am doing this video early, it also opens up a couple of interesting choices on how to do the install, so this should be a very interesting test session. So let's get to it. So, this past week, I not only installed VanillaOS, but I installed it twice on two different virtual machines. One running on my Proxmox server and the other one running on VirtualBox on my laptop. I originally only planned to do the VirtualBox one, but bumping this video up in time meant my Proxmox server would still be active for another 15 days or so I figured, why not? Let's do them both. I am focusing mainly on the VirtualBox install, as the Proxmox was just sort of a getting familiar with VanillaOS, and I don't want to make this video too long, so again, we're going to stick with just the VirtualBox install there. Other than a few idiosyncrasies between the way the programs, that's Proxmox and VirtualBox, work, there was not really more than some fairly minor differences that are not significant as to how the two installs went or how they were performed. One deviation actually relates to where I did the installs. Proxmox server is wired into my network, and so the VanillaOS install at home went much faster. When I did it on my laptop, I was out at my brother-in-law's place, connected by Wi-Fi. So yeah, the install VanillaOS was a whole, and I mean a whole lot slower. Like I said, I was going over Wi-Fi and I was contending with a whole bunch of other people using the same Wi-Fi. So basically, from my initial experiences, your experience with doing the install will depend on how good your internet connection is. It can either take half an hour or it can take several hours. It just depends on the speed of your internet connection. Okay, the first place we want to jump into is actually getting VanillaOS. So let's fire up our browser. We'll type in VanillaOS, and we should be directed to vanillaos.org as one of the first few entries. I will say I'm not a fan of this type of site. Graphics are way too big. The site is way too long. At least the intro page is way too long with lots of big graphics. Nice thing, they do have this little pop-up at the bottom talking about the new release, VanillaOS 2 Orchard, which is what we'll be using here. Let's poke around on the site a little bit before we get into downloading and running VanillaOS. We got a blog. Again, I'm not a fan of this style of blog, but it's workable, it's readable. Updates. Yeah, okay. Help. Okay, help. Handbook and documentation. What I'm looking for should be in one of those two places. Oh, let's see. There's installing. What is Homebrew in VanillaOS? Oh, they're installing VanillaOS on a VM. We may look at that one later. I know it's got to be here someplace. I mean, from what I've seen on some other sites, their documentation is pretty decent. Install OpenRGB. Oh, there. Install a VanillaOS installation. That's what I'm looking for. Let's go ahead and look at that. And good. The requirements are right up front. So let's see. 8 GB flash drive. Gosh, I hope the ISO isn't that big. It would have to be a 4 GB ISO to mean you need a 8 GB flash drive. We'll see when we download. 64-bit processor. Okay, I can see mentioning that. I mean, me myself, I do have a couple of 32-bit ones out there. Well, sitting in my supply, I haven't used them in a while. 50 gigs of hard drive space. That's that's a bit larger than I've seen before, but it's not that big. For a Linux installation, that is. 4 gigs of RAM, 8 recommended. Yeah, I think most laptops nowadays, if you've got them within the last few years, come with more RAM than that. 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, I can see 30 minutes if you've got a really good internet connection. If your internet connection's in any way spotty, you should change that hour to 2 hours of your time. Oh, and secure boot enabled. Why? Let me read the documentation a little bit on that one, because Linux should not really need secure boot. What do we got here? Okay, they're mentioning Ventoy, Rufus, Etcher, all valid ways to install. Yeah, they could have mentioned DD too if you want to do it from the command line, but yeah, whatever. Okay, let's go to downloads. And we got another button to push. Downloads, downloads. Okay, now we're going, and what we're looking at here is about 1.6 gigabytes. Yeah, I really don't see the need for an 8 GB USB stick, other than maybe the 4 GB ones are hard to find nowadays. But this should install just fine on a 4 GB. It might have some problems on a 2 GB stick. Well, we downloaded it. Good. We'll mention that I will download it using the URL given here directly into Proxmox using the Proxmox program. That's one of the nice things I do like about Proxmox, is you can download the ISOs directly in it and it will save them for you. So yeah, like I say though, we're going to focus mainly on VirtualBox here. Okay. Okay, as I said, the Proxmox was mainly a test. If people are interested, I could put that one up later after this video, but we're going to focus on VirtualBox here. So let's go ahead and fire up VirtualBox. First thing we're going to want to do is create a virtual machine. So hit new. This is actually the new version of VirtualBox. They changed their interface. Looks interesting. Anyways, we need to give it a name. Check our storage location, which is okay. Yeah, that looks good. Select our VanillaOS ISO image. There we are. We can jump past the unattended install, as I guess VirtualBox at this point isn't familiar with the VanillaOS. And we'll jump straight to hardware. 8 gigs of RAM, since that was recommended. I'm going to throw 4 CPU cores at this, and we'll enable EFI. Since it did say it needed secure boot, I don't recall it specifically saying it needed EFI, but that's sort of a feature of EFI, so I'm assuming we need it. Hard disk, we'll give ourselves, it said 50 gigabytes. Let's give ourselves 100. Yeah, just to be sure. Okay, everything else looks good. Finish. Now we need to make a few adjustments, so let's go to settings. Under system, we need to scroll down, and under enable EFI should be the enable secure boot option on this version of VirtualBox. Let's go ahead and turn that on. We'll use whatever the default key is that comes with it. No need to reset it. And since we're using a graphics display, let's bump this video memory up to all the way. I mean, it's only 128 megabytes, but that should do. We're not going to be doing any fancy 3D accelerated graphics kind of stuff. Okay, I think the rest of this should be good. And I think, yeah, looking at it, yeah, I think the only other possible change I would make is network right now is set for NAT. When I try and connect to a printer, I might have an issue with NAT, the way it works on VirtualBox, so I might want to change that to Bridge at a later date. Next step is going to be to actually install this. So let's hit start. We got the standard capture the mouse, capture the keyboard messages. We'll go with the first option, install VanillaOS. There's, well, VanillaOS 2. Okay. There's a safe graphics and there's a Novea install. We technically VirtualBox, we don't have an NVIDIA card, so we don't have to worry about that. We're safe going with option 1, I hope. And we get the nice little logo. So install custom image, recovery, power off. Since this is our first time around, I'm not going to do a custom image. Let's just go with install. Language, date and time, Philippines, Manila. Install location, we've only got one hard drive, and yeah, that's actually a very limited amount of stuff to set before doing the install. Let's go. Okay, installing. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. I'm not going to make you wait. I'm going to fast forward through some of this stuff. This, as far as I can tell, is not only installing from the USB, but it's also, I think, pulling stuff offline. I'm not sure. It took quite a while longer when I didn't have a decent internet connection. Anyways, yeah, we're using resources. Still going. Like I say, I did this at my brother-in-law's and it took a while. And finished, finally, yay. Okay, we got a couple choices here. We can either reboot or you can look at the logs. I mean, for most new users or people coming from Windows, you're not going to really understand what's in the logs, or you're not even going to want to look at them. But yeah, let's just hit finish. Well, let's just hit reboot now and restart. And you'll notice our grub screen did change. Now we've got current state A and previous state B. So this in a way is like the having two root partitions like I talked about in the previous video. Okay, we're back in VanillaOS. Make your choice. We'll just hit start, see where that takes us. Now, didn't I just set language in the installer? And date, time, location thing, didn't I just set that in the installer? Why are we doing it here again? The only reason I could possibly think of is if you're doing you're making a single hard drive image out of the install and then going to different computers. Yeah, then I could possibly see doing it, but I think they should have a button that says use what we use in the installer, but that's just me. Okay, we're going to create a user. So standard here, name, username. Device name. I was expecting to be asked for a password. Okay. Applications. Let's just go ahead and install everything, as that's what I did on Proxmox, which again took half an hour. We're already like an hour or so into this. So if you check on the side arrows, you can see what applications they're going to install, so you got some control over it. Okay, finished. Well, that was quick. Reboot now. Okay. This fooled me on Proxmox at first. This is not a login screen. This is a set your user password screen. So you're going to need to enter your password twice. And then we're going to authenticate. And I guess we're not done with the install. Finalizing. It looks like we're installing all those apps we selected. As I said, this went a lot faster with the direct connection. Okay. Da, 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 da. And away we go. Maybe I shouldn't have selected so many apps. Yeah, I'm not getting a very high download speed here. I can't get on the 5G. Too many people are using it. Done. Yay. Okay. didn't ask for a reboot. It says now you can take a short tour. Let's go ahead and do the tour. Configure updates. Yeah, okay. That just opens the looks like that looks like it's a Snap store, or not a Snap store. That looks like it's a Flatpak store is what it looks like. Oh, Android compatibility. I'm betting this is why the secure boot is required for Android. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's the reason you need a secure boot if you're gonna run APKs from Android. Develop the way you want, blah, blah, blah. Get an overview. Oh, configure your device. So I'm guessing these are all connect to an account. Yeah, these are all things you can do. I guess if you're a new user or you're not familiar with Linux, then you can get these things done here and you don't have to hunt around for them in the OS. I've used GNOME before, so I pretty much know where they're located. Like I say, don't have to like GNOME to use it, but eh. All right, let's adjust our display resolution. Ooh, 1920 by 1080. And let's go to full screen. And there, hey, that standard GNOME desktop. I'm gonna have a problem here though. Oh, let's see, we got a light and dark theme we can set. That's not a lot of, light theme, dark theme, well, default theme, dark theme, and then you can set your wallpaper. Not a lot of configuration of appearance here. One issue I'm gonna have with this is the hotkey to open the GNOME menu is gonna actually open the VirtualBox menus, so need to use a little icon in the upper left corner to open the menu. And standard GNOME menu, not alphabetical, of course, and no way to make it alphabetical. Well, other than dragging everything around. Okay, it's installed, yay. And our resource use doesn't look that bad. Okay. All right, let's poke around a little bit, maybe do some more, see what else we can configure here. I guess black box is our terminal program. But what do we got here? So some configuration options over here on the right. Yeah, okay. Terminal font. So let's open the terminal. It's kind of tiny here. Let's see. There's the menu over there. Preferences, light, dark mode, fonts. Terminal, let's change the size of our fonts. Okay. Something a little more readable. That's better. Okay, so if we do ls block and we scroll around, okay, so SDA1, run host boot, SDA2 is our EFI directory, SDA3 is an LVM, so this sets up LVM by default. Well, I'm guessing it can only set up LVM. And we've got root A and root B, and we're using root A right now. Okay. So these are our two directories, and this looks user, local, share, fonts, icons, themes, mount, media, distro box, user bin. That looks like your lockdown OS, and then you've got some other stuff over here, which is in looks like home RT. This stuff should be writable, I would guess. And then we've got the overlay, okay. Oh, okay, yeah, that's yeah. There, that's a little better. Fix the fonts, but yeah, okay, I can sort of see how this is laid out. And if Oh, this is interesting. There are no, well, there's a whole directory, but I just found out there's no LVM commands, or at least not available to me as a user, even with sudo. So that's interesting. And ls, again, bin, libs, sbin have all been redirected to user bin, user sbin, etc. Okay, I'm not sure what this vanilla key is. Okay, that was kind of interesting. It's sort of like what I was expecting, not exactly, but it looks like they've got part of the operating system locked down and then part of it available. Interesting. What I really want to look at is bottles, boxes. Boxes is a GNOME VM thing. Bottles and Windows emulator, camera. No surprise, I couldn't find the camera. Okay, APX, that's what I need to look at. This is apparently what allows you to run packages from other versions of Linux. So what do we got up here? There's our various versions, Alpine, Arch, Fedora, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu. This is supposedly based on Debian. Okay. These are built-in stacks, so apparently you can add new stacks. I'm not sure how, but it says these are built in and can't be edited or deleted. Oh, I bet that little plus sign up there. Well, we're not going to do a new stack just yet. Okay, and here's our package formats. Again, built in. APK, APT, DNF, Pacman, and Zipper. Yeah, okay. But how do we use these? Okay. New subsystem. Okay, hit the plus sign on the empty one. We do a new subsystem. Let's give it a name. Let's say Arch. Well, no, let's call it Pacman. And we're going to use the Arch stack. Okay. So this is apparently going to create a containerized subsystem. Creating system. Okay. I see how this is probably working. And there we have it. So if we look over, let's see. So if we open our terminal, so APX, usage commands. So we made the subsystem Pacman, and if we looked at the Pacman on the third tab there, it would have defined -s as install. So we use APX Pacman install. It also does sudo for us automatically. And let's install Genie, see if it works. Okay. See, here's the, if we go down to Pacman here, we can see that Pacman Tech S is install and needs sudo is checked. Anyway. So, and hey, we have Genie installed and it says Genie on Pacman. And it runs fairly quickly, okay. Just for fun, let's install it through the Debian base. And, oh wow, now we have two Genies. One of them's on VSO Pico, which I'm assuming is the Debian base, and the other one's in the Pacman subsystem. Oh, this is fun, yeah. This could get confusing very quickly too, depending on how you do it. Okay, basically the same versions. What do I want to do here? Let's really make things confusing and go to the Flatpak store and find Genie. Let's go ahead and install it. Oh, and look at that. Now we've got 3 of them. You can tell why this one's just called Genie, so it's we can tell this is leaning more towards containerized applications than even using the subsystems just by the titling. Okay, let's, how do we get rid of this? We'll have to look into how to get rid of that because that could get confusing having multiple applications, especially if they're different versions. All right, that was fun. I didn't see a large performance difference between the install I did on Proxmox and the one I did on VirtualBox. It ran okay. I mean, I could tell the difference. It wasn't great. This would be interesting on older hardware. I think you'd see a lot more changes here. I did figure out the whole package thing. When I had the multiple copies of Genie installed, I can delete them. Again, it's through the APK pack man for the one I was using, and then the -R, what would be actually remove. It's spelled out in the APK APX app, but interestingly, you can remove the package, you can remove the entire subsystem, but you can't remove the icon in the menu bar. That's actually when you install it, it creates a desktop application thing in a local users folder, which you have to go delete to get rid of it. So that was sort of disappointing. You'd think they would clean that up after themselves. Running Genie is not a big program, but there was really not a lot of difference between the Flatpak version, the Debian version, or the Arch version. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed also to find that since it's using LVM, you'd think the LVM commands would be available, but they're not. I'm sure they're in there somewhere and there's some way to access them because they are using LVM, by the way. So they need to be there someplace, subsystem. But yeah, I guess that's part of the immutability and you can't access them. Now, interestingly, on the subsystems, if I was scanning through the package, well, through the Flatpak store there, and it's very unlikely, unless you need something very specific, that you're ever going to use a subsystem. So that's, well, it's nice that it's there. I'm not sure how much of a feature that is. I mean, for the beginning user, was what I'm saying, because I could see as a more advanced user that you want something specific. You want something specific. And well, I feel like I'm leaning. I'm not sure. I don't feel like I'm leaning. Maybe my laptop's crooked. Oh well. Anyway, the what was I saying? Oh yeah, the if you're an advanced user, there might be specific packages from specific distros you need to use, but it's not going to affect the new user. So other than the fact that the size of this and the time to install is getting very windowish, and I got to give them points off for using GNOME, you can't, at least in my exploration so far, I haven't found an easy way to change the desktop. And like I say, not a GNOME fan, but I will give them plus points for getting away from Ubuntu and going with Debian. So that's a positive for the base there. As far as the new user experience, I think for a new user, it could be a pretty good experience if you stay away from stuff like the APX and strictly stick with the Flatpak App Store. I mean, it installs fairly simply. There's not a lot of questions. There's not a lot of configuration, and running the packages through Flatpaks, again, not a lot of configuration. I will say if you want to do a lot of configuration, you're going to be very limited on what you can actually configure in VanillaOS. For example, we had like GNOME, we had the default theme, we had the dark theme, and you could change your wallpaper, and that was about it. Which again is one of the things I don't like about GNOME. They're sort of the Windows of the Linux world, in my opinion. They don't want you messing around doing anything, but I can understand the developers not wanting to have to account for people's weird tastes, especially mine. So yeah, for a new user with relatively modern, powerful hardware, I say this works good. If it's older hardware or if it's weaker hardware, I'm pretty much think you're going to have some issues with the amount of time it takes, the amount of memory it uses. I mean, yeah, it does use a lot more memory than a regular Linux distribution, but again, they're running a lot of Flatpaks, a lot more resources. But on modern hardware, multi-core CPUs, anything in the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say this will run just fine for most new users, and it will probably be a better experience than Windows. However, if you want to jump under the hood or do anything like that, yeah, this is probably not going to be the distribution for you. So I think it'd be a good introduction to Linux. I just think they need to lose the GNOME desktop and go with something more Windowish. I mean, KDE, uh, FXC, whatever, something more Windowish, not GNOME, not something that's trying to be a tablet or a phone desktop. But again, just my opinion. I know a lot of people love GNOME, but I'm not one of them. So overall, yeah, for new users, I think this is going to be a great distribution. I did have a couple issues on startup, but I'm assuming this is like the second release, so things are going to get better as they go along. They'll deal with some of these problems. Yeah, like I say, a couple times when I started it, it didn't actually start up, but restarting it again usually solved the problem. And I will say I've had the same issue with Windows before, so that's nothing new there. But yeah, it's a fairly new distribution, second release, so we'll see where they go. But yeah, for the new user, thumbs up. For the experienced user, they're probably going to want a little more that this distribution just doesn't deliver. All right, that's it for this video. We'll catch you all later. I got to find out what that Fedora immutable KDE distribution is. I might actually want to do one on that. Anyways, catch you all later.